My daughter banned me from her luxury wedding because she said my age ruined her perfect aesthetic. She didn't realize that the corporate sponsor she bragged about was actually just a shell company for my personal savings. She wanted a day without her embarrassing mother, so I decided she could have a day without my money, too. I sat at my kitchen table and watched the steam rise from my ceramic mug. The morning light came through the window and highlighted the scratches on the wood surface. This table was 30 years old. My late husband, Frank, bought it at a garage sale when we first moved to San Diego. It wobbled slightly if I leaned on the left side, but I never fixed it. I liked the reminder that things didn't need to be perfect to be useful. Next to my tea, a checkbook lay open. The leather cover was worn soft. This wasn't my personal checkbook. It belonged to a limited liability company called Blue Heron Holdings. I picked up my pen and filled in the date, October 14th. Then I wrote the name of the recipient, Simone Styles Exquisite Events. I paused at the line for the amount. My hand hovered for a moment. $25,000. This was the third installment for the catering and the venue rental. I wrote the numbers clearly, careful not to smudge the ink. In the memo line, I wrote a single word: sponsorship. My daughter, Chloe, did not know about Blue Heron Holdings. She did not know that the generous grant for young entrepreneurs and influencers she received to fund her wedding actually came from her mother's savings. Chloe believed she was special. She believed a corporation saw her social media presence and wanted to associate their brand with her perfect day. I tore the check from the book with a quiet rip. I placed it in an envelope, sealed it, and put a stamp in the corner. I did this because I wanted Chloe to be happy. I wanted her to have the luxury wedding she dreamed of without feeling the weight of my help. If she knew I paid for it, she would worry about my retirement. Or worse, she would feel like I owned the event. I finished my tea. It tasted bitter. I had steeped the bag too long. I grabbed my purse and keys. I drove a 10-year-old sedan with a dent in the rear bumper. The engine made a low rattling sound as I pulled onto the highway. I headed north toward Carlsbad. The drive usually took 40 minutes, but traffic was heavy. Cars surrounded me, shiny and fast. I stayed in the right lane and kept my speed steady. The wedding venue was a private estate on a cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean. I parked my car in the back lot, away from the valet stand. I didn't want to embarrass Chloe. She told me last week that my car ruined the vibe of the entrance. I walked around the side of the main building. The air smelled like salt and expensive perfume. White hydrangeas lined the stone path. I saw them in the distance, Chloe and her wedding planner, Simone. Chloe looked beautiful. She wore a white silk sundress and large sunglasses. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a tight, smooth bun. She held her phone in front of her face and spoke to the screen. She was recording a video for her followers. Simone stood next to her holding a tablet. Simone was tall and wore a sharp black suit. She looked professional and expensive. I walked closer. My orthopedic shoes made a soft scuffing sound on the pavement. Chloe lowered her phone and saw me. Her smile disappeared. She didn't wave. She just watched me approach. "Hi, Mom," she said. Her tone was flat. "Hello, Chloe," I said. I tried to hug her, but she stiffened. I pulled back quickly. "The venue looks lovely." "It's okay," Chloe said. She looked past me, scanning the parking lot. "Did you park in the back?" "Yes," I said. "Just like you asked." Simone stepped forward and offered me a polite, tight smile. "Mrs. Vance. Good to see you. We were just discussing the seating chart for the reception." "Oh, wonderful," I said. "I wanted to ask about the cousins from Arizona. Aunt Martha needs a seat near the restroom because of her hip." Chloe sighed. It was a loud, sharp breath. "Mom, we talked about this. The seating is based on aesthetic and influence. The tables near the dance floor are for the content creators and the bridal party. I can't put Aunt Martha in the background of the main shots. She has a walker." My chest felt tight. Chloe Martha is family. She traveled a long way. "It's a visual experience, Mom," Chloe said. She adjusted her sunglasses. "This isn't a family reunion in a park. This is a curated event. Simone, show her the mood board." Simone tapped her tablet and turned the screen toward me. I saw a grid of photos. Young people in designer clothes. Champagne towers. A color palette of beige, cream, and gold. Every person in the photos looked under 30. They were thin, tan, and laughing. I don't see any older people in these pictures, I said quietly. Exactly, Chloe said. That's the brand. Young luxury. That's what the sponsors expect. That's what Blue Heron Holdings paid for. I looked at my daughter. She said the name of my company with such reverence, yet she looked at me with annoyance. She respected the invisible money, but she had no patience for the mother standing in front of her. I see, I said. I gripped the strap of my purse tighter. The envelope with the $25,000 check was inside. It felt heavy against my hip. Well, I just wanted to drop by and see the progress. You saw it, Chloe said. She checked her watch. We have a tasting in 10 minutes. It's just for the couple and the planner. Sorry. I understand, I said. I didn't move immediately. I wanted her to invite me. I wanted her to say, actually, Mom, come try the cake. Chloe looked at Simone. Is the lighting better over by the arch? I need to redo my intro. They turned their backs to me. They walked toward the edge of the cliff, discussing angles and shadows. I stood alone on the stone path. The wind blew strands of gray hair across my face. I smoothed them back. I watched my daughter pose in front of the ocean. She looked perfect. She looked happy. But she didn't look at me. I turned around and walked back to my car. I sat in the driver's seat for a long time before I started the engine. I reached into my purse and touched the envelope. I could have driven back to the front, handed the check to Simone, and bought my way into the tasting. I was the sponsor after all. I owned the young luxury she was so proud of. But I didn't. I started the car and drove home. The envelope stayed in my purse unsealed. 3 days later, I drove to a bridal salon in downtown San Diego. The building had large glass windows and a black awning. The name Gilded Lace was written in gold script on the door. I parked my car 2 blocks away to avoid the valet charge, and walked the rest of the distance. I carried a garment bag over my shoulder. Inside was a dress I had purchased earlier that week from a department store. It was navy blue with small silver beads around the neckline. It was elegant and modest. I thought it would be perfect for the mother of the bride. I pushed open the heavy glass door. A bell chimed softly. The air inside was very cold and smelled like lavender and starch. A young woman at the front desk looked up. She wore a headset and typed on a computer. She did not smile. I'm here for Chloe Vance's final fitting, I said. I'm her mother. They are in the back, she said, pointing a manicured finger toward a velvet curtain. I walked through the curtain. The back room was bright, with mirrors covering every wall. Chloe stood on a circular wooden platform in the center of the room. She wore her wedding dress. It was a fitted mermaid style with intricate lace. It looked expensive. I knew exactly how expensive it was because I had written the check for the deposit 2 months ago from the Blue Heron account. Simone the planner stood next to the platform holding a clipboard. A seamstress was on her knees, adjusting the hem of Chloe's dress with pins. Don't pull it too tight, Chloe said to the seamstress. I need to be able to pose. I stepped forward. You look lovely, Chloe. Chloe turned her head. She looked at me, then at the garment bag in my hand. You brought it. Yes, I said. I unzipped the bag and held up the navy blue dress. The silver beads caught the light. I found this at Macy's. It fits perfectly, and the color is very slimming. Chloe frowned. She didn't look at the dress. She looked at the reflection of the dress in the mirror next to her own. Mom, it's navy. Yes, I said. Blue. Like the ocean. Since the wedding is in Carlsbad. It's too dark, Chloe said. She shook her head. The palette is champagne, cream, and gold. Navy is going to look like a black hole in the pictures. It clashes with the aesthetic. Simone tapped her pen on her clipboard. She has a point, Mrs. Vance. The contrast will be very harsh in the natural light. We want a cohesive visual story. I lowered the dress. My arms felt tired. But champagne is almost white. I can't wear white to your wedding. There are shades of beige, Chloe said. Or taupe. Something that blends in. Something neutral. That dress screams department store. I looked at the silver beads. I thought they were pretty. I like this dress. It makes me feel confident. Chloe sighed. She signaled for the seamstress to stop. This isn't about you feeling confident, Mom. It's about the wedding brand. The photos are going to be in magazines. Maybe. If we get the lighting right, I can't have you standing next to me looking like that. Like what? I asked. Like you're going to a church potluck, Chloe said. The room went silent. The seamstress kept her head down and pinned the lace. I zipped the garment back slowly. The sound of the zipper was loud in the quiet room. I see, I said. Also, Chloe said, turning back to the mirror, I need you to do something about your hair. The gray is really wiry. Can you dye it? Or maybe wear a hat. A wide-brimmed hat would cover most of it. I touched my hair. I had stopped dyeing it 5 years ago. I liked my gray hair. It felt honest. I'm not dyeing my hair, Chloe. Fine, she said. But Simone says the photographer is going to use a high-definition filter. It picks up every wrinkle and stray hair. I just don't want you to look old. Simone cleared her throat. We can position Mrs. Vance in the second row for the formal portraits. That way, the lighting will be softer on her features. Good idea, Chloe said. Second row. Behind the bridesmaids. I stood there holding my rejected dress. I felt very small. I was the one paying for the seamstress. I was the one paying for the lighting. I was the one paying for the platform Chloe stood on. Yet I was being told to stand in the back so I wouldn't ruin the picture. I'm going to go, I said. Okay, Chloe said. She didn't turn around. Leave the check for the florist on the table on your way out. I forgot to get it last time. I paused. I had forgotten that I was supposed to bring a personal check for the smaller vendors, the ones I paid directly to keep up the appearance that I was contributing a small amount, while the sponsor paid the big bills. I opened my purse. I took out my personal checkbook, the one with my limited pension funds in it. I wrote a check for $200 for the boutonnieres. I placed it on the side table next to a vase of fake flowers. Goodbye, Chloe, I said. Bye, she said. Don't forget to look for a beige dress. No beads. I walked out of the salon. The heat of the afternoon hit me as soon as I stepped onto the sidewalk. I walked the 2 blocks to my car. My feet hurt in my walking shoes. When I got home, I hung the navy blue dress in the back of my closet. I went to the kitchen and opened the drawer where I kept the blue heron ledger. I ran my finger down the list of expenses. Venue, $35,000. Catering, $28,000. Dress, $8,000. Planner, $12,000. The numbers were black and sharp on the page. I had worked for 40 years in commercial real estate. I saved every bonus. I invested in ugly warehouses that no one else wanted, and I sold them when the market turned. I built a fortune quietly because I didn't want to be treated differently. Now my money was buying a party where I was not welcome. I closed the ledger. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across my kitchen floor. I sat in the dark and listened to the refrigerator hum. I waited for my phone to ring. I waited for Chloe to call and apologize. The phone did not ring. 2 weeks before the wedding, I sat on my front porch and shelled peas. The metal bowl felt cold in my lap. I snapped the pods open with my thumbs and scraped the green peas into the bowl. The rhythm was steady. Snap, scrape, drop. It was a Tuesday afternoon. The neighborhood was quiet, except for the sound of a lawnmower 3 houses down. My house was small, a single-story bungalow with peeling white paint on the railing. I had meant to hire someone to paint it, but I never got around to it. I spent my extra money elsewhere. A silver convertible turned onto my street. It moved fast. The car swerved into my gravel driveway and stopped abruptly. Dust rose into the air. I recognized the car. It belonged to Mike, Chloe's fiancé. But Chloe was the one driving. I wiped my hands on my apron and stood up. Chloe opened the car door and stepped out. She wore oversized sunglasses and a beige tracksuit. She carried a large iced coffee in a plastic cup. The ice rattled as she walked toward the porch. "Hi, Mom," she said. She didn't come up the steps. She stood on the grass near the hydrangea bushes. "Hello, Chloe," I said. "I didn't know you were coming. I can make some lunch. I have fresh peas." "No," she said quickly. She took a sip of her coffee. "I can't stay. I have a meeting with the videographer in an hour. I just need to talk to you about the logistics." "Logistics?" I asked. "For the day of?" "Yeah," she said. She looked at the peeling paint on the railing. She shifted her weight from one foot to the other. Can we go inside? It's hot out here. I opened the screen door. She walked past me into the living room. The house smelled like lemon polish and old paper. I had cleaned the floors that morning. Chloe stood in the center of the room. She didn't sit on the floral sofa. She kept her sunglasses on. So, she started. We were going over the final numbers last night. Me, Mike, and Simone. I sent the check for the final head count, I said. Blue Heron covered it. You don't need to worry about the cost per plate. It's not about the cost, Chloe said. She put her drink down on a coaster. She crossed her arms. It's about the capacity. And the vibe. I waited. My hands felt sticky from the pea pots. I rubbed them together. We overbooked, Chloe said. Simone says the venue is too tight. We have to cut the guest list. By a lot. Oh, I said. Well, I can call cousin Martha. She will understand if she can't bring her grandson. No, Chloe said. It's not Martha. She took a breath. Mom, look. This is really hard for me. She didn't look like it was hard. Her voice was steady. Her chin was up. What is it? I asked. The thing is, she said, we are trying to curate a specific atmosphere. It's a young Hollywood launch party vibe. Very high energy. Loud music. Flashing lights. It's going to be intense. I can handle loud music, I said. I'll bring earplugs. It's not just the music, Chloe said. She finally took off her sunglasses. Her eyes were hard. It's the visual. We want the photos to look editorial. Like a magazine spread. And having older family members there. It disrupts the aesthetic. I stared at her. The grandfather clock in the hallway ticked. Tick, tock, tick, tock. I don't understand, I said. I am the mother of the bride. I know, Chloe said. And that's why this is awkward. But honestly, Mom, you don't fit. You'll be uncomfortable. Everyone else is going to be 25 and wearing designer labels. You'll just be sitting there in your beige dress looking out of place. It brings the energy down. My legs felt weak. I sat down on the arm of the sofa. Are you saying I cannot come? I'm saying it's better if you don't, Chloe said. She picked up her coffee again. Ideally, you just stay here. You can relax. I'll have the videographer send you a link to the live stream. You can watch it on your iPad. It will be just like being there, but you won't have to deal with the stairs or the noise. A live stream, I repeated. Yes, she said. It's really high quality. 4K resolution. I looked at my daughter. I remembered teaching her to tie her shoes. I remembered sitting up with her when she had the chicken pox. I remembered writing the check for the deposit on this wedding 3 months ago because she cried about how much she wanted the ocean view. Chloe, I said softly, I am your mother. You are uninviting me from your wedding because I look old. Don't make it sound like that, she snapped. You're making me feel guilty, and I don't need that stress right now. This is my day. Supposed to be perfect. Having you there, hovering, worrying about if you're tired or if you like the food, it ruins my experience. She checked her watch. I have to go. I'm going to be late for the videographer. She walked toward the door. I didn't stand up. Wait, I said. She stopped at the screen door. She didn't turn around. Does Mike know? I asked. Mike agrees with me, she said. He thinks you would be happier at home. She pushed the door open. The spring stretched with a metallic squeak and then slammed shut behind her. I heard her footsteps on the porch. Then the car door slammed. The engine roared, and the tires crunched on the gravel as she backed out. I sat in the living room for a long time. The ice in Chloe's coffee cup melted. Water pooled on the coaster. I stood up and walked to the kitchen. The bowl of peas was still on the table. Picked up a pod. It was green and smooth. I pressed my thumb against the seam, but I didn't have the strength to snap it. My chest ached. It wasn't a sharp pain. It was a heavy, dull pressure like a stone sitting on my ribs. I walked to the refrigerator. A heavy cardstock invitation was held up by a magnet. It was cream-colored with gold foil lettering. Chloe and Mike. October 28th. The cliffs at Carlsbad. I pulled the magnet off. The invitation fluttered to the floor. It landed face down. I didn't pick it up. I stepped over it and walked down the hallway to my bedroom. I closed the door and lay down on top of the quilt. I stared at the ceiling. There was a water stain in the corner that looked like a cloud. I closed my eyes, but I didn't cry. The tears wouldn't come. Instead, I felt a coldness spreading through my chest. It replaced the ache. It was a calm, quiet cold. My daughter wanted a perfect day. She wanted a day without her mother. I rolled over and looked at the phone on my nightstand. It was black and silent. Next to it was the Blue Heron Holdings checkbook. Wednesday morning was gray. The marine layer hung low over the street, obscuring the tops of the palm trees. I woke up at 6 o'clock, the same as always. I put on my slippers and walked to the kitchen. I saw the invitation on the floor where I had dropped it the day before. I bent down and picked it up. The corner was bent. I smoothed it out with my thumb, feeling the raised gold lettering. Then I opened the trash can under the sink and dropped the card inside. It landed on top of wet coffee grounds and eggshells. I went to the study. It was a small room at the back of the house with a single window that looked out onto the side yard. My desk was a large mahogany piece from my old office. I sat down in my leather chair. The leather creaked. It was a familiar sound. A sound from my past life when I managed 50 commercial properties and negotiated leases with retail chains. I opened the bottom drawer and took out the articles of incorporation for Blue Heron Holdings. I placed the thick document on the desk. Next to it, I placed the checkbook in the ledger. I opened the ledger to the page marked Project C&M Wedding. I looked at the numbers written in my neat handwriting. Deposit paid. Vendor installment 1 paid. Vendor installment 2 paid. Pending. Final venue balance, $45,000. Pending. Catering final headcount, $12,000. I picked up the phone. It was a heavy corded landline. I preferred the clarity of the landline for business. I punched in the number for Exquisite Events. It rang 3 times. Exquisite Events, Simone speaking. How can I create your moment? Her voice was bright and practiced. Good morning, Simone, I said. This is the administrator for Blue Heron Holdings. There was a pause on the line. The typing in the background stopped abruptly. Oh, Simone said. Her tone shifted. It became deeper, more respectful. Hello. I wasn't expecting a call from the corporate office. We received the check for the sponsorship grant last week. Is everything all right? No, I said. I am calling to invoke the cancellation clause of the sponsorship agreement. Excuse me? Simone asked. I don't understand. The wedding is in 10 days. I am aware of the timeline, I said. However, the sponsorship was contingent on the event aligning with the brand values of Blue Heron Holdings. We have determined that the current direction of the event does not meet our standards. But everything is booked. Simone's voice rose in pitch. The flowers are ordered. The sea base is being flown in. You can't just pull the funding now. The contracts are signed. The contracts are signed by Blue Heron Holdings, I said. And Blue Heron Holdings is terminating them. I am issuing a stop payment on the last check. I am also formally withdrawing the financial guarantee for the venue and the catering. You can't do this, Simone said. She sounded breathless. The bride, Chloe. She thinks this is a grant. She doesn't have the liquidity to cover these balances. If you pull out, the venue will cancel the reservation immediately. They have a strict policy. I know the policy, I said. I read the contract before I signed it. Who is this? Simone asked. I need to speak to the director. I need a name. I sat up straighter in my chair. I rested my hand on the desk. The wood felt cool and solid under my palm. You are speaking to the director, I said. My name is Eleanor Vance. Silence stretched over the line. I could hear Simone breathing. I heard a car horn honk in the background on her end. Mrs. Vance, she whispered. Chloe's mother? Yes, I said. I'm confused, Simone stammered. You're the mother of the bride. But you're calling from the holding company. Blue Heron Holdings is my company, Simone, I said. I am the sole proprietor. The money for this wedding did not come from a corporate grant. It came from me. Oh my God, Simone said. My daughter made it clear yesterday that I do not fit the aesthetic of this wedding, I said. My voice remained steady. She informed me that I am uninvited. Since I am not suitable for the event, I have decided that my money is not suitable either. Mrs. Vance, please, Simone said. Let's not be rash. The cancellation fees. The deposit. I will absorb the cancellation fees, I said. I can afford them. What I will not afford is a party where I am unwelcome. I have to call Chloe, Simone said. Her voice shook. I have to tell her the venue is released. Yes, you do, I said. Tell her the sponsor withdrew. Tell her exactly why. She's going to freak out, Simone said. She's at the spa right now. That sounds relaxing, I said. Please notify the vendors immediately, Simone. I don't want them to incur any more costs for an event that isn't happening. Good day. I hung up the phone. The receiver clicked into the cradle. I sat in the silence of my study. The grandfather clock in the hall chimed. It was 9 o'clock. I took a red pen from my desk drawer. I opened the ledger. I drew a single straight red line through the words final venue balance. Then I drew a line through catering final headcount. The ink was bright and wet against the white paper. I closed the ledger. I stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the fog was beginning to burn off. The sun was trying to break through the clouds. My hands were steady. My breathing was even. I didn't feel sad anymore. I felt light. I went to the kitchen to make a fresh pot of tea. I filled the kettle with water and set it on the stove. The blue flame flickered to life. I waited for the whistle. The kettle whistled. It was a high, piercing sound that filled the quiet kitchen. I turned the knob to off and the sound died away, leaving only the bubbling of the water. I poured the hot water into my mug. The tea bag swirled and darkened the liquid to a deep amber. I carried the mug to the living room and set it on a coaster. I sat in the armchair that faced the front window. I watched the street. The mail carrier walked by, pushing his blue cart. A neighbor walked a golden retriever on a retractable leash. It was a normal Wednesday morning for everyone else. My cell phone sat on the coffee table. It was 10 minutes past 9. At 9:12, the phone lit up. It vibrated against the wood table with a harsh buzzing sound. The screen flashed. Simone Stiles. I didn't pick up. I watched the screen until it went dark. 2 minutes later, a text message appeared. I spoke to her. I told her everything. She is trying to reach you. I took a sip of my tea. It was hot and scalded the tip of my tongue. I placed the mug down. The phone buzzed again. This time the name on the screen was Chloe. I let it ring 4 times. On the 5th ring, I picked it up and pressed the green button. I put the phone to my ear. Mom! Chloe's voice was so loud I had to pull the phone away. She was screaming. I heard wind noise in the background like she was outside or running. Pick up. Why aren't you picking up? I am here, Chloe, I said. Simone is crazy. Chloe yelled. She just called me. I was in the middle of a facial. She said the venue is canceled. She said the money is gone. She said you pulled the funding. That is correct, I said. What are you talking about? Chloe's voice cracked. She sounded breathless. You don't have any funding to pull. You live on a pension. You drive a 2014 Honda. Simone said the sponsor was Blue Heron Holdings. That's a corporation. Blue Heron Holdings is my company, I said. I formed it 10 years ago when I sold my commercial properties. It manages my assets. There was silence on the other end. The wind noise stopped, as if she had stepped inside or closed a car door. You, she whispered. You have money? Yes, I said. How much? She asked. Enough to pay for a wedding in Carlsbad, I said. And enough to cancel it. This isn't funny, Mom, she said. Her voice rose again, sharp and panicked. The venue manager just emailed me. They released our date. It's gone. They're opening it up to the wait list. You have to call them back. Right now. Tell them it was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake, I said. I called Simone this morning. I terminated the contract. Why? She screamed. It was a raw guttural sound. Why would you do this to me? It's 2 weeks away. Everything is booked. People have flight tickets. I looked at the navy blue dress hanging in the hallway closet. The door was slightly ajar, and I could see the hem of the fabric. You told me I didn't fit the aesthetic, I said. You said my presence would bring the energy down. You said I should stay home and watch a live stream. So, Chloe said. So you ruined my entire life? Because I hurt your feelings. Because you wanted a wedding that money could buy, but you didn't want the mother who had the money, I said. You wanted the check, but you didn't want the woman who signed it. You can't have it both ways, Chloe. I didn't know it was your money, she argued. If I knew, I would have. She stopped. You would have what? I asked. Treated me with respect? You would have let me sit in the front row? You would have let me wear the dress I liked? Yes, she said. Of course. That is exactly the problem, I said. You only respect the things that have value to your image. You thought I was poor and old, so I was disposable. Now that you know I am the sponsor, suddenly I matter. Mom, please, she said. She was crying now. I heard the wet, gasping sounds of her tears. Fix this. Please. Everyone is going to know. I already posted the countdown on Instagram. I can't cancel. It's humiliating. It is humiliating, I agreed. I felt very humiliated when you told me I was too embarrassing to be in your photos. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. I was just stressed. Please, Mom. Call Simone. Wire the money back. I'll do whatever you want. You can sit at the head table. You can give a speech. Just pay the bill. I listened to her beg. Didn't feel good. I didn't feel a rush of victory. I felt tired. My hand gripped the phone tightly. The money is not the issue anymore, Chloe, I said. The trust is gone. I am not reinstating the funding. You can't do this, she shrieked. The anger was back, instantaneous and hot. I'm coming over there. Don't you dare leave the house. I am coming over there, and we are going to fix this. I will be here, I said. I'm 5 minutes away, she said. Do not hang up on me. I pulled the phone away from my ear and pressed the red button. The line went dead. I placed the phone back on the table. My hand shook slightly, just a tremor in my fingers. I clasped my hands together in my lap to stop it. I looked around my living room. It was clean. The floors were swept. The magazines were stacked neatly on the side table. It was a modest room. It was the room where I raised her. It was the room where I planned my business deals late at night while she slept. I heard the sound of a car engine in the distance. It was revving high, getting louder. It wasn't the polite hum of the neighborhood traffic. It was an engine being pushed too hard. I stood up and walked to the front door. I unlocked the deadbolt. I didn't want her to kick the door down. I turned the handle and opened the door just a crack, breaking the seal. Then I went back to my chair and sat down. I picked up my tea. It was still warm. I waited for my daughter to arrive. The silver convertible skid into the driveway. Gravel sprayed against the side of my house, hitting the siding like hail. The engine cut off abruptly. The car door slammed. Chloe ran up the porch steps. Her heels clacked loudly on the wood. She threw the front door open so hard it hit the wall with a crack. The handle left a dent in the plaster. She stood in the doorway. Her face was flushed red. Her hair, usually perfect, was loose from her bun, strands sticking to her forehead with sweat. She wore a white spa robe over her clothes. She was breathing hard, her chest heaving. Fix it, she said. She pointed a finger at me. Call Simone. Right now. I stayed in my chair. I took a slow sip of my tea. Hello, Chloe. Please close the door. You are letting the flies in. She marched into the room and kicked the door shut with her heel. It slammed again. Are you insane? Do you have dementia? Is that what this is? Because no sane person cancels their daughter's wedding 2 weeks out. I am perfectly lucid, I said. I set my mug down. I just decided to stop paying for a service I wasn't receiving. It's not a service. It's my wedding. She paced back and forth on the rug. Her hands were fists. Mike is freaking out. His parents are calling me. The florist just texted me that she's releasing the orchids. Do you know how hard it is to get white orchids in October? I imagine it is expensive, I said. Stop talking about money, she screamed. She stopped pacing and stood directly in front of me. She loomed over my chair. You lied to me. You pretended to be poor. You let me apply for grants and budget like a crazy person while you were sitting on. What? Millions. I never said I was poor, I corrected her. I said I was on a fixed income, which I am. I pay myself a salary. And you never asked about my finances, Chloe. You only asked about the aesthetic. Because that's what matters, she yelled. My brand matters. My image matters. And you just torched it. Everyone is going to know. They're going to know I'm a fraud who couldn't pay for her own party. Yes, I said. They will. She stared at me. Her mouth opened but no sound came out. The reality of the statement hit her. She collapsed onto the sofa opposite me. She buried her face in her hands. Her shoulders shook. Mom, she sobbed. Her voice was muffled. Please. I can't afford this. The deposits are non-refundable. We'll lose everything. We'll be in debt. You won't be in debt, I said. Blue Heron Holdings absorbed the cancellation fees. You don't owe the vendors anything. You just don't have a wedding. She looked up. Her mascara was smeared under her eyes. But I want the wedding. I want the pictures. I want the moment. You can have a wedding, I said. The courthouse downtown performs ceremonies on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It costs $80 for the license. The courthouse. She looked at me with disgust. I can't get married at a courthouse. What will I post? Got hitched at the DMV. It is a legal marriage, I said. If you love Mike, the location shouldn't matter. That's easy for you to say, she spat. You're old. You don't understand how the world works now. It's about perception, Mom. It's about status. I stood up. My knees popped. I walked over to the desk in the corner. I picked up the Blue Heron ledger. I held it out to her. Read it, I said. She looked at the book. What is it? It's the record of every check I wrote for you, I said. Not just the wedding. The down payment on your first car. The scholarship you got for college that was actually an anonymous donation from me. The bail money when you got that DUI in college. She took the book. Her hands trembled. She flipped through the pages. She saw the dates. She saw the amounts. She saw the name Blue Heron Holdings written at the top of every page. You paid for everything, she whispered. I wanted you to have a good start, I said. I didn't want you to struggle like I did. But I made a mistake. I taught you that money appears by magic. I taught you that you deserve things just because you want them. She looked up at me. Her eyes were wide. The anger was gone, replaced by fear. She realized the safety net she didn't know existed had just been cut. Mom, she said. Her voice was small. I'm sorry. I really am. I was awful to you. I know that. But please, don't punish me like this. Not with the wedding. It's the most important day of my life. If it's the most important day of your life, I said, then you should want your mother there. Not as a sponsor. Not as a checkbook. But as your mother. I do, she said quickly. I do want you there. I swear. I'll change the seating chart. I'll fire the photographer if he uses filters. Just call Simone. I looked at my daughter. She was 26 years old. She was holding a ledger that documented 20 years of my silent support. She was crying, but her eyes were still calculating. She was still thinking about the orchids. She was still thinking about the venue. I reached out and took the ledger from her hands. Closed it. No, I said. What? She asked. No, I repeated. I am not calling Simone. The wedding is over, Chloe. The account is closed. You can't mean that, she said. I do, I said. You are an adult. You want a luxury lifestyle? Earn it. You want a perfect wedding? Pay for it. I am done being the invisible bank. Chloe stood up. She wiped her face with her sleeve. She looked at me, and for the first time she didn't look at my clothes or my gray hair. She looked at my face. She saw the resolve in my eyes. I hate you, she whispered. I know, I said. But I love you enough to stop helping you destroy yourself. She turned around and walked to the door. She didn't slam it this time. She opened it and walked out. I watched her get into the convertible. She sat there for a moment, staring at the steering wheel. Then she started the car and backed out of the driveway. I locked the door. I walked back to my chair. The house was quiet again. The only sound was the refrigerator humming in the kitchen. I picked up my tea. It was cold. December arrived with cold rain. The palm trees in the front yard dripped water onto the brown grass. I sat at my kitchen table, but the checkbook was gone. The The blue heron ledger was locked in the bottom drawer of my desk. I hadn't opened it in 6 weeks. Chloe was quiet. She didn't come by for lunch and she didn't call to ask for money. I saw her online. She posted a video 2 days after our fight. She sat on her floor, wearing no makeup, and told her followers that the wedding was postponed due to unforeseen financial restructuring. She didn't mention me. She didn't mention the aesthetic. She just looked tired. Mike and Chloe went to the courthouse a week later. They didn't tell anyone until after it was done. They posted one photo. They were standing on the concrete steps of the San Diego County Administration Center. Chloe wore a simple white slip dress. Mike wore a gray suit. They were holding hands, but they weren't smiling. It was a real photo. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. I sent them a card. Inside I wrote, "Congratulations on your marriage." I didn't send a check. I finished my morning toast and wiped the crumbs from the table. I walked into the study and turned on my computer. I wasn't looking at real estate listings or stock prices. I was on a travel website. The screen showed a picture of a massive white ship cutting through blue water. The text read, "The Golden Horizon, Luxury World Cruise for Seniors." I read the itinerary. Hawaii, Tahiti, Fiji, New Zealand. I looked at the price. It was expensive. It cost almost exactly what I had saved by canceling the catering contract for the Carlsbad wedding. I clicked the button that said Book Now. I entered my credit card information. I typed my name, Eleanor Vance. I didn't use the company card. I used my own. I wanted my name on the ticket. 3 weeks later, I stood on the deck of the ship. The port of San Diego looked small in the distance. The wind whipped my hair, but I didn't try to smooth it down. I wore a wide-brimmed hat and large sunglasses, not to hide, but to block the glare of the sun. I wore the navy blue dress with the silver beads. The sunlight hit the beads and made them sparkle. No one told me it was too dark. No one told me I clashed with the scenery. A waiter walked by with a tray of drinks. He stopped in front of me. "Champagne, madam?" he asked. "Yes, thank you," I said. I took a glass. The stem was cold in my fingers. I walked to the railing and looked down at the water. It was a deep churning blue. The engines hummed beneath my feet. A steady, powerful vibration. "Is this your first time on the horizon?" a voice asked. I turned. A woman stood next to me. She looked to be about my age, maybe older. She had short white hair and wore a bright red caftan. She held a martini. "Yes," I said. "It is." "I'm Susan," she said. "I'm traveling alone. My husband passed 3 years ago, and my kids are busy in Chicago. I decided to spend the winter somewhere warm." "I'm Eleanor," I said. "I'm alone too." "Well, you're not alone now," Susan said. She raised her glass. "Here's to spending our children's inheritance." I laughed. It was a loud, genuine laugh. I clinked my glass against hers. "To spending it on ourselves," I said. We drank. The champagne was crisp and dry. "Dinner is at 6, Susan said. "The captain's table. They seat us by age group so we have things to talk about. No 20-year-olds allowed." "That sounds perfect," I said. Susan walked away to talk to a man in a linen suit. I turned back to the ocean. I took my phone out of my purse. I had a signal for a few more minutes before we reached open water. I opened my messages. There was one new text from Chloe. "Saw the picture you posted. You look happy. Enjoy the trip, Mom." I looked at the message. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't a request. It was just an acknowledgement. She saw me. For the first time in years, she actually saw me. I typed back, "I will." I pressed send. Then I held down the power button on the side of the phone. The screen went black. I dropped the phone into my purse and zipped it shut. The ship's horn blasted, a deep, resonant sound that signaled our departure. I felt the deck shift as the ship turned toward the west. The coast of California began to fade into the mist. I took another sip of champagne. I watched the horizon. It was wide and open. I didn't know what I would do when I came back. Maybe I would paint my house. Maybe I would buy a new car. Maybe I would start a new business. But for now, I had a reservation at the captain's table. I had a dress that sparkled. And I had a name that was printed on the passenger manifest in bold letters. I was Eleanor Vance. And I fit the aesthetic perfectly.